What if everything you knew about safety, school, friendship, and normal life suddenly collapsed in a matter of hours? Because of something so small it was almost invisible at first, a single bite that changed everything forever. In a quiet high school in Hyesan, South Korea, life once moved like any ordinary day, students worrying about exams, teasing each other in classrooms, running through hallways, dreaming about futures they barely understood. But beneath that normal world, something unnatural was about to be born, something that would turn every heartbeat into a countdown to death. It all begins in a science lab where a seemingly harmless experiment involving a small test subject goes wrong, and in that chaos, a single infected bite becomes the spark that ignites a chain reaction no one can stop. At first, nobody realizes what is happening. The infected student looks weak, confused, almost sick, but within minutes, his body begins to change, his eyes lose emotion, his movements become violent, and suddenly, the first scream echoes through the hallway, breaking the illusion of normal school life forever. That scream becomes the signal of doom as more students are attacked, bitten, and turned, and within moments, what was once a place of education transforms into a nightmare of blood, chaos, and panic. Doors slam shut, chairs are thrown against windows, desperate students barricade themselves inside classrooms hoping that walls will protect them from what is outside. But what they don't realize is that the danger is already inside too. The infected are no longer just victims. They are evolving into relentless predators, running faster, pushing harder, breaking through anything that stands in their way. In one classroom, a small group of survivors including Chongsan, Onjo, Suhyok, Namra, and others manage to hold their ground, stacking desks against doors, whispering plans in fear-filled voices, trying to stay calm while the sound of scratching nails and banging bodies grows louder outside. Every second feels like an hour, every breath feels like the last, and every shadow looks like death waiting to enter. As the situation worsens, they realize staying in one place is suicide, so they attempt to move through the building using fire escape routes, jumping between floors, crawling through windows, and navigating corridors filled with screams and running footsteps. Outside help is attempted, but communication fails as networks collapse, signals are blocked, and the entire city begins falling into silence, interrupted only by distant screams and emergency alarms. Meanwhile, something far more terrifying begins to emerge, not just mindless zombies, but humans who survive the infection differently, like Gwynam, a brutal and twisted student who becomes something far worse than an infected creature. Unlike others, he retains awareness, but loses empathy completely, becoming a hybrid of rage, intelligence, and unstoppable violence, driven by revenge after suffering injuries that should have killed him. As chaos spreads, Chongsan risks everything to retrieve a working phone from the administration office to call for help, but what he finds instead is a nest of infected bodies and a deadly confrontation that separates him from his group. At the same time, Gwynam begins hunting him specifically, turning the survival into a personal war inside the collapsing school. Every hallway becomes a battlefield where students either die, transform, or disappear forever, and every classroom becomes a trap where silence is the only chance of survival. Namra, meanwhile, begins showing strange symptoms after being exposed to the virus differently. She is not fully infected, not fully human, but something in between, giving her enhanced hearing, strength, and awareness, but also isolating her emotionally from others as she struggles to control her changing nature. As military forces outside attempt to contain the outbreak, drones fly over the city, broadcasting warnings, scanning buildings, and tracking infected zones, but the situation is already beyond control as entire districts fall silent. Inside the school, friendships are tested under pressure, as some students sacrifice others to survive, some hesitate and lose chances, and some step forward into danger willingly to protect the group. Chongsan and Gwynam eventually collide multiple times in brutal encounters where fists, weapons, and pure survival instinct decide outcomes more than skill or strength, creating moments of intense psychological and physical warfare. In one confrontation, Chongsan manages to escape by using timing and environment rather than brute force, but Gwynam survives impossible injuries, showing that death itself has stopped meaning anything to him. As the group attempts multiple escape plans, including rooftop evacuations, fire exits, and coordinated distraction tactics using loudspeakers, every plan gets interrupted by either infected swarms or internal betrayal from desperate survivors. The emotional weight increases as students witness their friends turning into monsters in front of them, forcing impossible decisions like whether to kill someone they love or be killed by them instead. Outside the school, the infection spreads across the city of Hyesan, turning streets into war zones. hospitals into death traps, and homes into silent graves, as families are separated forever in minutes. The government responds with extreme measures including airstrikes and containment zones, but this only escalates destruction, collapsing entire buildings and reducing escape chances further. Inside the chaos, Namra's condition worsens as she becomes stronger but more detached, struggling between protecting her friends and losing control to the virus inside her. Chong-san, despite being exhausted, continues pushing forward, refusing to give up even when injured, starving, and surrounded by death on all sides. Eventually, the survivors manage to reach higher floors and attempt rooftop escape, but even there, danger follows them in the form of Gwynam, who refuses to die, climbing after them like a nightmare that cannot be stopped. In one of the most intense moments, Chong-san and Gwynam engage in their final battle, where rage, revenge, pain, and survival instincts collide in a violent struggle that shakes the rooftop structure itself, each blow carrying emotional weight beyond physical damage. Despite everything, Chong-san uses intelligence and timing to survive moment by moment, while Gwynam becomes increasingly monstrous, losing all remaining humanity. Meanwhile, Namra fights her own internal battle, trying to control the virus as it pushes her toward attacking her own friends, creating tension where she might become either their greatest weapon or their biggest threat. As military drones begin mass operations, triggering sonic attacks that weaken infected creatures, the battlefield becomes chaotic as zombies collapse in waves, but survivors also struggle to withstand the overwhelming noise and destruction. In a final desperate attempt, Chong-san sacrifices himself by luring the infected into an elevator shaft explosion, ensuring his friends can escape, marking one of the most emotional turning points in the entire outbreak, where survival is achieved only through loss. The remaining survivors escape the collapsing school and reach relative safety, but the emotional scars remain permanent as they realize that what they survived will never leave them. Namra, now fully aware of her hybrid condition, isolates herself, choosing distance over danger, knowing she is neither fully human nor fully monster anymore. The city outside slowly begins recovery efforts, quarantine zones are established, and survivors are processed, but the memory of Hyacinth remains a permanent wound in society. In the end, the question that lingers is not just who survived, but what survival actually meant when everything human inside that school was tested, broken, and rewritten forever, leaving behind a silence that speaks louder than any scream, and a haunting truth that in the face of extinction, the real enemy was not just the virus, but what fear turned humans into when there was no escape left.